Hi friends and dear colleagues, welcome to the crash course for SET exam 2020 for the subject of commerce. Today in this lecture, we are going to cover Unit 9, that is legal aspect of business of Commerce Paper 2. In this lecture, we are going to see Unit 9, that is legal aspect of business, where we have lot of acts and laws which is the part of our syllabus. In this lecture, we are going to cover Negotiable Instrument Act 1881, which includes types of negotiable instrument, negotiation and assignment or endorsement, dishonor and discharge of negotiable instrument. See, when we are talking about Negotiable Instrument Act 1881, it covers many provisions, many topic relating to negotiable instruments. To start with the lecture, first we should understand what do you mean by negotiable instrument. See, these are the instruments which was developed as an alternative to money or currency based transaction and are basically instruments of credit that can be converted into money. They are written orders or unconditional promises to pay a fixed sum of money on demand or at a certain time of the holder. In simple words, negotiable instruments is a piece of paper which entitles to a person to a sum of money stated therein. It is a transferable document. The person who is entitled to receive the money can further transfer it. Now we have usually in the business transactions we have so many negotiable instruments which are used day-to-day activities of the businessman. Such negotiable instruments like bill of exchange, check, promissory notes, etc., which are negotiable instruments used in the business transaction. As I said, these are developed as an alternative to money currency. Popularly used negotiable instruments are like bill of exchange, promissory notes, check, draft, that is demand draft you can say, COD, that is certificate of deposit, and CP stands for commercial paper. So these are some of the popularly used negotiable instruments in day-to-day business transaction. Now when we are talking about negotiable instrument, we must know some characteristics of any kind of negotiable instrument. Either it is bill of exchange, promissory note, or check, or anything, right? So what are the common features of negotiable instrument? First one is that any negotiable instrument must be in writing. Writing means there may be some special format, specific format given by the act, or if format is not given, there must be some understanding that what things are required to be present. So accordingly, but thing is what, it must be in writing. This is most important part. Whether format is available or not available, but it must be in writing. Just like a promissory note. In promissory note, there is no standard format. It can be in any way, but if you are talking about check is a negotiable instrument which is having standard format in India. Okay, but whatever things are there, whatever types of negotiable instruments are there, they must be in writing format. Second feature is that negotiable instruments contain an order or undertaking to pay specific amount. Very important thing, right? Keep in mind. These are what? A kind of order or undertaking to pay. ये negotiable instrument होता है, उसमें या तो order दिया रहेगा कुछ pay करने का, और undertaking रहेगा कि I will pay, और promise will be there regarding payment of certain amount, specific amount. Specific means certainty. Certainty of amount must be there, right? Now negotiable instruments made up payable to the bearer or to the particular person. See, as we know, we are making promissory notes. Suppose Mr. A promises to Mr. B to pay a certain sum of money. That means Mr. A will make promissory note, he will sign on that and hand over to Mr. B, and Mr. B now is the bearer or holder of that promissory note, and he is having right to get that money from Mr. A on particular date, which is written on the promissory note. So it is always payable to the bearer. Bearer means who is the holder of promissory note or holder of negotiable instrument. Okay, so this is also very important. There is particular person, there must be person, specific person must be there, specific amount must be mentioned, right? Now date of payment is also most important part of negotiable instrument. Whenever there is any negotiable instrument which is transacted between the parties or among the parties, date of payment must be mentioned over there, otherwise it will not be a good negotiable instrument. Okay, if date is not mentioned, that means date is uncertain, and in that case that negotiable instrument is not a good negotiable instrument. Negotiable instrument can be transferred easily from one party to the party. Transferability gives good title to the transferee. See, in case of negotiable instrument, if it is transferred from one party to other party, just by transferring from one hand to other hand, title also get transferred. Title means ownership. That means if bearer check is transferred from Mr. A to B, that means now B is having the rights to get money because he got that check. Suppose Mr. B has transferred that check to Mr. C. Now Mr. C is having right and he's having good title to the transfer. That means what transfer you again? Transferor and transferee, I think you know very well. Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A has transferred some goods to Mr. B. Mr. A is known as transferor and Mr. B is transferee, right? तो जो भी transferee होता है, when he receives certain negotiable instrument, he receives title as well. Every document that entitles a person to a sum of money and which is a transferable is entitled to be called as negotiable. See, negotiable instrument can be in different forms: hundis, dividend warrant or commercial paper. The same thing is written here. ठीक है, तो कोई भी document through which there is transfer of sum of money और वो document transferable होना चाहिए, तो उसको हम negotiable instrument बोल सकते हैं. Okay guys, now there are different types of negotiable instrument like promissory note, bill of exchange and check, which is explained in section 4, 5 and 6 respectively. In this lecture we are going to cover these three types of negotiable instrument. In that, first one is promissory note, which is covered under section 4 of Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. Promissory note is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional undertaking. See, ये ध्यान में देखना, ये writing में होता है, unconditional undertaking होता है, right? As just we have seen, there must be unconditional undertaking. It must be signed by the maker, okay, to pay a certain sum of money or to the order of a certain person or bearer of the instrument, right? See, the highlighted words is nothing but features of negotiable instrument. So promissory note means any instrument where promise has been made regarding payment of certain sum of money to certain person, right? And it should be in writing. But bank note or currency note will not be called as a promissory note because all these features will be satisfied in a bank note or currency note. क्योंकि अगर आप बैंक नोट या कोई भी करेंसी नोट देखोगे, जो हमारे पास करेंसी रहते हैं, कोई भी 10, 20, 50, 100 के नोट, कोई भी, in that bank note you will find unconditional undertaking signed by the maker. वहाँ पे गवर्नर का साइन आपको मिल जाएगा, ओके. सर्टन सम ऑफ मनी भी रहेगा स्पेसिफिक, जैसे 10 रुपीज के नोट पे 10 रुपीज का अमाउंट लिखा रहेगा, राइट. एंड उसमें लिखा भी रहता है कि आई एम प्रॉमिस टू पे टू द बेयरर ऑफ दिस नोट ऑफ ₹10, ऐसा लिखा रहता है ना. सो बैंक नोट और करेंसी नोट इज fulfilling all the conditions of a good promissory note or features of promissory note, but that is excluded from the definition of promissory note. Okay, so apart from bank note or currency note, whatever things are there, if it is in writing, if it contains unconditional undertaking if it is signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money or by his order, and person is also specified, then it is known as promissory note. Now some features, essential features of promissory note. In that, first one is it must be right. See, almost whatever features we have done here in negotiable instrument, almost same features you will get here. So no need to read it again, but except two or three, which is specifically new apart from these features of negotiable instrument. Okay, so it may be promissory note, bill of exchange, or check. Features are is almost the same, right? So it must be writing parties to a promissory note. That is, who are the parties? So there are two parties, maker and pay. Maker means a person who makes promissory note. Pay means on whose behalf, to whom promise is made to make the payment, right? So Mr. A made a promissory note where he promises to pay to Mr. B a certain sum of money. So Mr. A is a maker of the promissory note and Mr. B is a pay. Promise to pay, there must be promise made by one party to other party regarding payment of money, and that promise must be always unconditional promise. If Mr. A has put some condition to pay certain amount of money to Mr. B, then it is a conditional promise and it will not be a good promissory note. It should be always signed by the maker. In our example, it should be signed by Mr. A. Certain sum of money, definitely amount should be mentioned. In promissory note, it should be payable to promise or his order, right? It means if Mr. A promises to pay to Mr. B certain sum of money, to promise is made to make payment to B or his order, that will also be okay. जरूरी नहीं कि हम B को पे करेंगे, केवल B को ही करना पड़ेगा. I can promise to make payment to Mr. B or his order. या तो B ने किसी को बोला पे करने के लिए, तो I will pay to that also. So that will also be comes under promissory note. It should be stamped wherever Indian Stamp Act is applicable. As per the Indian Stamp Act, every documents must have certain kind of stamp. Okay, तो उसके हिसाब से stamp होना चाहिए if it is required. And very important, date and place is also written on the promissory note. These are the format of promissory note. You can see here place of residence, date होना चाहिए, मतलब place का information, date and on which date. Then maker's name, right, जिसने promissory note बनाया. See वो same thing, pays name जिसको pay करना है, sum of money, okay, rate, annual rate of something, rate of interest वगैरह, तो everything maker signature. So these are nothing but the requirement of the promissory note. Now second type of negotiable instrument is bill of exchange, which is covered under section 5. A bill of exchange is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order. It contains unconditional order. It's a very important thing. Signed by the maker. Okay. Same thing. See, you will find same thing because all are negotiable instrument. The features are almost same. Directing a certain person to pay, the certainty of person to whom money is to be paid, certain sum of money, or to the order of certain person, same thing, right? So bill of exchange is also one kind of arrangement where parties, buyer and seller, when they are dealing in credit transaction, they can arrange their transaction through the help of bill of exchange. If you see the characteristic features of bill of exchange, it should be in writing. There are three parties: drawer, drawee, and pay. Okay. Then in this case, who will be drawer, who will be drawee, and who will be pay? We'll take one example. Suppose Mr. A is a seller, Mr. B is buyer. Okay. Now Mr. A has sold some goods to Mr. B on credit. Right? Say example 5 lakhs का goods credit में बेच दिया. Now Mr. A, since he sold goods to Mr. B of rupees 5 lakhs on credit, A has to recover that money from B. So what A will do? A will make bill of exchange of rupees 5 lakh for the period of credit. For example, suppose एक महीने का credit उसने मांगा था Mr. B ने. Okay, and send to the Mr. B for accepting that bill, because in that bill of exchange it will be written that after 1 month after date pay Mr. so or his order sum of rupees so and so value received, ऐसा लिखा रहेगा, उसका फॉर्मेट है, राइट. तो हियर ड्रॉवर इज मिस्टर ए, ड्रॉ इज मिस्टर बी, on whose name bill of exchange is issued. And pay draw and pay almost same होता है, but sometime it happens कि pay की जगह पे दूसरे का नाम भी हो सकता है, okay, as per the order of the drawee. Same thing here is order is given to pay certain sum of money, unconditional order होना चाहिए, order to pay money होना चाहिए. See, very important thing, in bill of exchange there is an order to pay money, and in promissory note there is, yes, promise to pay money. यहाँ पे ऑर्डर कौन देता है? सेलर ऑर्डर देता है कस्टमर को कि मुझे इस दिन को पेमेंट चाहिए. एंड इन प्रोमिसरी नोट हु इज गिविंग प्रॉमिस? बायर इज गिविंग प्रॉमिस दैट प्लीज गिव मी गुड्स ऑन क्रेडिट, आई विल पे टू यू. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, बहुत अच्छा डिफरेंस है, एग्जाम में आने के चांसेस हैं, आ भी सकता है. बिल ऑफ एक्सचेंज, हु इज मेकर ऑफ बिल ऑफ एक्सचेंज? ड्रॉवर. हु इज ड्रॉवर? सेलर. और बायर? सेलर. And in promissory note, who is maker of promissory note? Buyer. Always buyer, right? क्योंकि buyer ही promise करेगा ना भाई कि मुझे goods दे दो क्रेडिट में, मैं आपको पे करता हूँ. लेकिन bill of exchange में seller order देता है कि मैं आपको goods sell कर रहा हूँ क्रेडिट में, but you have to pay me on so and so date, right? Then it must be signed by drawer, that is seller sign करता है, और accepted by drawee. Drawee must accept that bill. If bill is not accepted by drawee, it has no legal value. Keep in mind. So there must be certain sum of money and stamp as per the Indian Stamp Act must be there. Now next, Negotiable Instrument Act is check, which is covered under section 6 of Negotiable Instrument 1881. First we'll see what you mean by check. Check is a bill of exchange, one kind of bill of exchange which is drawn on a specified banker and not expressed to be payable otherwise on demand. Okay, I think check known by everyone. Check is also one kind of arrangement, one kind of instrument through which we are making payment to our customer, to our parties from whom we have purchased goods. Okay, and check is drawn on a banker's name, right? Okay, there are different kinds of check. There will be truncated check. Truncated check means a check which is truncated during the course of clearing cycle, either by clearing house or by the bank, whether paying or receiving payment. Now what do you mean by truncation? So truncation means conversion of physical check into electronic form. See, from the year 2010 what happens? Earlier whenever check is deposited to a bank, so वो बैंक प्रोसेस करता था, और वो क्या होता था कि बैंक पूरा एंट्री करने के बाद वो चेक इज सेंड टू दी हेड ऑफिस ऑफ आरबीआई, फिर वहां पे वो पूरा प्रोसेस होता था, और प्रोसेस होने के बाद क्लियर होता था, विच टेक्स 3 days minimum. But now due to huge amount of transactions and to have proper record of all the check transaction, this check truncation system has been started in the year 2010, where each check, physical check, is converted into electronic form so that transmission gets very easy, right? So that is called check truncation. And there are different kinds of check: bearer check and cross check. You know about this. Okay, now essential features of check. Same thing as I said, this is also one kind of negotiable instrument. So most of the features you will get same thing, like writing, it must be in writing, वो writing में होना चाहिए. There are 3 parties: drawer, drawee and payee. Who is drawer? तो जो check बना रहा है drawer है. Who is drawee? Drawee is always a bank on which you are making order to make payment to the payee. मतलब कि अगर मेरे पास स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया का मेरा अकाउंट है, and from that account I have to make payment to Mr. B. So Mr. A is a drawer. That bank SBI जिसका मैं चेक दे रहा हूँ वो ड्रॉई है, तो बैंक इज अ ड्रॉई and Mr. B is payee, right? So there are 3 words: drawer, drawee and payee. Person who is drawing the check, that is जो बिल चेक बना रहा है, जैसे मैं बना रहा हूँ, मैं मिस्टर ए हूँ तो मैं ड्रॉवर हूँ. Who is drawee? बैंक ड्रॉई है. एंड पे कौन है? जिसके नाम पे चेक बन रहा है. ओके, Then there is order to pay, because drawer gives order to whom? Order to bank, that is drawee, to pay, make payment to pay. There is unconditional order to pay, same thing, order to pay money signed by the drawer. Check does not require an acceptance. See, in case of bill of exchange, it should be accepted. Here we have seen, right, it should be accepted by drawee, otherwise it has no legal value. But in case of check, even if it is not accepted, it has legal value, right? So check does not require to accept by the drawee bank. There is certain sum of money, stamp must be there as per Indian Stamp Act, always drawn on specified. See, चेक हमेशा किसी बैंक के नाम पे ही ड्रॉ किया जाता है. ओके, इफ देर इज नो बैंकर, चेक कैन नॉट बी इशूड ओनली ना, क्योंकि हम तो चेक तभी इशू करेंगे जब किसी बैंक, कोई बैंक है, प्रेजेंट है, एग्जिस्ट है, राइट. हाँ, चेक का पेमेंट कब होता है? ऑन डिमांड. तो सपोज इफ मिस्टर ए has given check to Mr. B of 5,000, तो Mr. B को चेक का पेमेंट तभी मिलेगा when he will present that check to the drawer, drawee, that is बैंक के पास जाएगा तो ही मिलेगा. तो मतलब पेबल ऑन डिमांड होता है, जब डिमांड करेगा, प्रोवाइडेड that demand must be on the specified period. Now it is a 6 month from the date of issue of check. Post dated check is payable on the presentment on or after date of issue of check, right? जो भी post dated check है वो कब पे होगा? So it is payable on presentment on or after the date of the check. Okay, guys. Now after that, another topic is negotiation. What do you mean by negotiation? When a bill, check or promissory note is transferred to any person so as to constitute that person the holder thereof, the instrument is said to be negotiated. That means, very simple, it is nothing but when promissory note, bill, that is negotiable instrument, when it is transferred to any person, we are saying that bill is negotiated. Here, when we are transferring any negotiable instrument to other person, that is the person to whom we have transferred is known as transferee. Transferee gets the right, transferee gets the right to as the holder of the instrument. मतलब अगर मैंने किसी मिस्टर बी को कोई negotiable instrument ट्रांसफर किया है, तो that Mr. B gets rights as the holder of the instrument. Okay, so this process of transferring the ownership of negotiable instrument is called negotiation. तो negotiation basically क्या होता है? ट्रांसफर करना, बट with the transferring of negotiable instrument, ownership must be transferred. ownership transfer हो जाना चाहिए, और ये हो जाता है by default, right? तो अगर मैंने चेक मिस्टर बी के नाम पे मिस्टर बी को हैंड ओवर कर दिया, तो आई हैव ट्रांसफर दैट चेक. तो merely physical delivery of check to Mr. B makes the Mr. B as the owner of that check, owner of that amount. Okay, fine. So negotiable, see, there can be different types of negotiation. It may be by delivery or by endorsement and delivery. Now see, negotiation can be done by two ways. There are two mode of negotiation. One is by delivery, where a negotiable instrument payable to bearer is negotiated by delivery thereof, right? So अगर bearer को payable है तो just delivery से ही वो negotiate हो जाता है. अब bearer को payable है, में जैसे bearer check है ना, bearer check में क्या होता है कि the person to whom I am handing over that check becomes bearer of the check, okay, who is holder of the check, and just by hand delivery he becomes owner. That means negotiation हो गया. सेकेंड टाइप होता है बाय एंडोर्समेंट एंड डिलीवरी. बाय एंडोर्समेंट एंड डिलीवरी, इन दिस केस व्हाट हैपेंस? अ नेगोशिएबल इंस्ट्रूमेंट पेबल टू ऑर्डर इज negotiable by the holder by endorsement and delivery. तो कहने का मतलब है कि डिलीवरी, बाय डिलीवरी कब निगोशिएशन होगा? तो इट इज इन केस ऑफ बेरर, राइट? जो होल्डर है उसके हाथ में मैंने चेक दे दिया, मतलब मैंने डिलीवरी किया, जस्ट मियर हैंड डिलीवरी. With the hand delivery, negotiation has been done. But if amount payable is by order, अगर order से payment करना है, right? Order से payment मतलब कि the name must be written on the negotiable instrument. So in that case, negotiation is done by endorsement and delivery. मतलब फिर जैसे मुझे उसमें नाम, जैसे भी cross check है, cross check comes under this category by endorsement and delivery, because in that case on the face of check पेज नेम इज रिटन, राइट? और उसके बाद में उसको डिलीवरी करता हूं उस पर्सन को, राइट? तो एक चेक है उसमें मिस्टर में लिखा गेट पेड टू मिस्टर बी 5,000 रुपीज, डेट वगैरह साइन वगैरह किया मैंने, और मैंने उसको हैंड डिलीवरी कर दिया मिस्टर बी को। तो ये सेकंड केस है क्योंकि इसमें एंडोर्समेंट हुआ, उसमें पेई का नाम लिखा हमने, ओके। और अगर मैंने जस्ट बेरर चेक दे दिया तो ये मोड ऑफ नेगोशिएशन बाय डिलीवरी, ओके। Now next thing is endorsement, very important thing. What do you mean by endorsement? It means writing of person's name. Here see endorsement, हमने वही बताया मैंने. It means writing of person's name on the face or back of negotiable instrument or on a slip of paper called allonage. ये term याद रखना, allonage. Allonage means any slip of paper where name of the parties are written फॉर द पर्पज ऑफ निगोसिएशन। तो नॉर्मली होता ही है कि बहुत सारे ऐसे इंस्ट्रूमेंट है, निगोशिएबल इंस्ट्रूमेंट, अगर वो आपको ट्रांसफर करना है एंड इफ इट इज ट्रांसफर टू मोर देन वन पर्सन अगेन एंड अगेन, तो व्हाट हैपेंस, या तो उसके फेस पे या तो उसके बैक साइड में, और वन एडिशनल स्लिप इज अटैच्ड टू दैट इंस्ट्रूमेंट। तो whenever it is transferred from one person to other person, the transferor signs on that paper or on that place and writing name of that person to whom it is transferred, तो वो just by that it is get transferred, okay। तो एंडोर्समेंट मतलब यही होता है कि जब आप नाम लिखते हो किसी पर्सन का, कहाँ पे लिखते हो, या तो फेस पे या तो बैक ऑफ द निगोशिएबल, या तो आगे या तो पीछे लिखते हो। समटाइम देयर इज डिफरेंट स्लिप ऑफ पेपर विच इज अटैच्ड टू दैट, बट ये राइटिंग ऑफ नेम ऑन बैक और फेस मस्ट बी फॉर द पर्पज ऑफ निगोशिएशन, निगोशिएशन के लिए होना चाहिए। देयर आर सम एसेंशियल्स ऑफ एंडोर्समेंट, like endorsement of promissory note, bill of exchange and check is completed by delivery. That delivery may be actual or constructive. तो अगर ये promissory note, bill of exchange या check का हमको endorsement करना है तो just by delivery हो जाता है। वो delivery actual भी हो सकता है और constructive भी हो सकता है, right? Then holder should write or sign on the face or back of the instrument और सेपरेट स्लिप और स्टैम्प्ड पेपर। सी जो भी इंस्ट्रूमेंट जिसके पास है, मतलब जो होल्डर ऑफ इंस्ट्रूमेंट है, इफ यू वांट टू ट्रांसफर दैट इंस्ट्रूमेंट और इफ यू वांट टू एंडोर्स दैट इंस्ट्रूमेंट टू अदर पर्सन, ही शुड राइट और ही शुड साइन ओवर देयर either on the face or of the back of the instrument, or as we have seen allonage, separate slip, allonage, or any other stamp paper attached to that instrument, okay। then it must be signed by the endorser, जो endorser है मतलब जो holder है उस पर साइन होना चाहिए। endorsement is a contract between endorser and endorsee, okay। जो transferor and transferee it is one and the same thing, क्योंकि endorsement लिख रहे तो वो endorser and endorsee का नाम है। once endorsed can be further negotiated, अगर मिस्टर ए ने मिस्टर बी को endorse कर दिया तो मिस्टर बी can also endorse to other person because it is a negotiable instrument, no, it has features of transferability. There can be different kinds of endorsement. One is known as blank endorsement. एक ब्लैक एंडोर्समेंट होता है जिसमें जस्ट जो होल्डर ऑफ इंस्ट्रूमेंट है वो उसके बैक पे साइन कर देता है, इंस्ट्रूमेंट के बैक साइड पे साइन कर देगा, और जस्ट बाय साइनिंग on the back side of the instrument, that document, that instrument gets endorsed. Then second, the endorsement in full, where endorser sign his name of another person to whom it is payable. देखो यहाँ पे वो साइन भी नहीं करता बट उसका नाम भी लिखता है जिसको पे करना है, right? Restrictive endorsement, this is one kind of endorsement where once instrument gets endorsed to other person, further it cannot be endorsed to other person. That means further negotiation नहीं हो सकता उसका। जैसे मिस्टर ए ने मिस्टर बी को एंडोर्समेंट किया और अगर वो रेस्ट्रिक्टिव एंडोर्समेंट है तो फिर मिस्टर बी किसी और को निगोशिएट नहीं कर सकता है, तो उसको बोलते हैं रेस्ट्रिक्टिव एंडोर्समेंट। Then when there is a partial endorsement जहां पे some part of the amount is endorsed. So for example जो negotiable instrument है वो 10,000 का अमाउंट है, स्पेसिफिक अमाउंट लिखा हुआ है, बट 10,000 उसको एंडोर्स नहीं करना, उसको केवल 5,000 एंडोर्स करना है। तो अकॉर्डिंगली ऑन द बैक साइड ही विल साइन एंड विल राइट दैट सम पार्ट ऑफ द अमाउंट जो भी लिखना है इज ट्रांसफर्ड और एंडोर्स, तो उसको बोलते हैं पार्शियल एंडोर्समेंट। देन देयर इज अ कंडीशनल एंडोर्समेंट। Such endorsement depends on the fulfillment of specific condition. It means जब भी endorsement होगा तो जो एंडोर्सर रहेगा वो एंडोर्सी को बोला रहेगा भाई कि दिस एंडोर्समेंट विल बी कंप्लीटेड इफ सम कंडीशन मस्ट बी फुलफिल्ड, तो उसको कंडीशनल एंडोर्समेंट बोलते हैं. एंड वन इज सैंड रिकोर्स एंडोर्समेंट, वेयर endorser he makes it clear to the endorsee that he is not responsible for any kind of risk. Sans recourse means he is not taking risk. Who is not taking? Endorser is not taking risk. For example, suppose Mr. A endorses one negotiable instrument to be for 5 lakhs. Okay. अब एंडोर्स क्या मतलब, सपोज चेक दिया, वन काइंड ऑफ चेक. इसका मतलब ए ने बी को 5 लाख का चेक दिया, मतलब कि बी को 5 लाख रुपीज मिलने वाला है ए से. ठीक है. Now what happens? Mr. B again endorses to Mr. C same thing, same जो चेक था या कोई इंस्ट्रूमेंट था उसने Mr. C को दे दिया. Now what happens? Here now Mr. C got right to get payment from Mr. A, right? ऐसे ही है ना, क्योंकि चेक तो मेन पर्सन तो मिस्टर ए ने किया था, वही 5 लाख देने वाला था बी को. अभी बी ने क्योंकि उसको एंडोर्स कर दिया सी को, तो सी इज हैविंग राइट टू गेट मनी फ्रॉम मिस्टर ए. तो ऐसा नहीं होगा, क्योंकि व्हेन मिस्टर ए endorses that instrument to B, he makes it very clear that you take risk, I am not going to take risk. If you endorse to some other person, then I am not responsible for that. I may not be pay money to him or to that endorsee, right? So such type of endorsement is known as sans recourse endorsement. Now next is dishonor of check. Dishonor of check means when the drawee bank on whose name bank check is issued, he refuses to make the payment to the party. मतलब मैंने मिस्टर ए है, उसने मिस्टर बी को चेक दिया और स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया के नाम का या कोई भी बैंक के नाम का चेक दिया. एंड व्हेन बी प्रेजेंटेड हिज चेक बट बैंक denies or refusing to make the payment, then it is known as dishonor of check. What are the grounds on which, किस ग्राउंड पे चेक को डिसऑनर किया जा सकता है? तो दीज आर सम ऑफ द ग्राउंड. इफ चेक इज इरेगुलर और एम्बिगुअस, अगर लग रहा है ऐसा कि चेक जो है ना नॉर्मल चेक नहीं है. फॉर एग्जांपल अभी हमने पढ़ा लास्ट स्लाइड में कि इन द ईयर 2000 टेक देयर इज इन 2010 चेक का फॉर्मेट चेंज होता है. वो सीटीएस वाला चेक स्टार्ट हुआ था, एक नया फॉर्मेट विच इज एप्लीकेबल टू ऑल बैंक्स इन इंडिया. 2010 के बाद से जितने भी चेक हैं इंडिया में, कोई भी बैंक के जितने भी चेक हैं, वो चेक का फॉर्मेट सेम होना चाहिए. अदरवाइज प्रायर टू दैट व्हाट हैपेंस ना, हर एक बैंक अपना चेक का डिजाइन अपने हिसाब से रखता था, तो ऐसा नहीं चलता, अब नहीं चलता. तो इफ दैट चेक इज इरेगुलर, इट इज नॉट सच थिंग विच इज रेगुलर यूज इन रेगुलर, सो वो उस बेसिस पे इसको डिसऑनर किया जा सकता है. इफ कस्टमर बिकम्स इंसॉल्वेंट, राइट, अगर कस्टमर जिसने चेक दिया वो इंसॉल्वेंट हो गया, तो भाई चेक विल बी डिसऑनर्ड ऑन दैट ग्राउंड. इफ देयर इज अ डेथ, lunacy or insolvency of the customer and bank has noticed thereof, right? अगर बैंक को पता चला कि भाई जो कस्टमर है उसका डेथ हो चुका है, और he becomes lunatic, lunatic means having unstable mind, कुछ ऐसा प्रॉब्लम हुआ, या if he becomes insolvent, तो अगर बैंक को ये नोटिस मिल जाता है कि ऐसा कुछ हुआ है कस्टमर के साथ में जिसने चेक, तो वो क्या करे, मना कर देगा, वो डिसऑनर कर देगा पेमेंट करने से. पोस्ट डेटेड चेक इज प्रेजेंटेड बिफोर इज, यू नो पोस्ट डेटेड चेक, राइट, जब हम पेमेंट करते किसी पार्टी को और सम फ्यूचर डेट में पे करना चाहते, बट चेक हमने आज से दे दिया है, राइट. तो टुडे सपोज इट इज 20th दिसंबर और मैंने चेक दिया पार्टी को 20th जनवरी का, तो भले मैंने आज चेक इशू किया लेकिन डेट क्या है, फ्यूचर का डेट है. अब इफ दैट चेक इज प्रेजेंटेड टू द बैंक, डेफिनेटली इट विल बी रिजेक्टेड, इट विल बी डिसऑनर्ड, नो, क्योंकि उसका डेट तो आया नहीं है. तो वही लिखा है, पोस्ट डेटेड चेक इज प्रेजेंटेड बिफोर इट्स डेट. If it is presented beyond 6 months from the date of issue, as you know earlier it was 3 months, now it is 6 months, right? तो अगर 6 महीने के sorry I am misinterpreted, if 6 महीने का रूल पहले था, अभी now it is a 3 month की चेक चलता है, राइट. अगर उसके बाद इशू किया तो नहीं चलेगा, उसके बाद प्रेजेंट किया तो नहीं चलेगा. इफ ड्रॉई सिग्नेचर डज नॉट मैच ड्रॉवर सिग्नेचर, तो जिसने चेक बनाया वो साइन भी करता है, इट मस्ट बी साइंड. And if that signature does not matching with the specimen signature with the bank, then it will be dishonored, right? Insufficient balance, very important reason or grounds for dishonor. Balance नहीं account में, और आपने चेक दे दिया तो बैलेंस बाउंस तो होने वाला है, डिसऑनर तो होने वाला है. इफ कस्टमर स्पेसिफिकली इंस्ट्रक्ट्स टू हिज बैंक नॉट टू पे द मनी, तो इट विल बी डिसऑनर्ड. एंड इफ होल्डर गिव्स नोटिस टू द बैंक ऑफ लॉस, अगर सपोज ए ने मिस्टर बी को चेक दिया और मिस्टर बी से वो चेक मिसप्लेस हो गया, लॉस हो गया, तो उस केस में क्या करेगा मिस्टर बी? उस बैंक को इंटीमेट करेगा कि ऐसा ऐसा कोई चेक था, वो अगर कोई लेके आता है तो प्लीज don't sanction, don't honor that check, right? So these are certain ground on which their bank can deny for making the payment. Okay, now discharge of parties from liability. See, discharge of instrument means when all rights of action under the instrument are completely extinguished and when it ceases to be a negotiable. मतलब कि कोई instrument है. See, when one instrument is transferred or negotiated from one person to other person, so when it is negotiated, some rights is also gets transferred from one person to other person. Title transfer हो जाता है, ownership transfer हो जाता है, right? Earlier the title remains with A, now it transferred to Mr. B because such documents, negotiable instrument has been transferred. So if these rights are get over extinguished मतलब खत्म हो जाता है completely, तो हम बोलते हैं कि भाई इंस्ट्रूमेंट डिस्चार्ज हो गया, राइट? ओके, फॉर एग्जाम्पल सब प्रॉमिसरी नोट है, ए ने इशू किया था बी के नाम पे, राइट? ए हैज मेड प्रॉमिस टू मेक पेमेंट टू मिस्टर बी सो एंड सो अमाउंट, राइट? अब नाउ ए ने अगर पेमेंट कर दिया आफ्टर दैट पीरियड, सपोज एक महीने का था, एक महीने के बाद में प्रॉमिस किया था तो उसने पे कर दिया, तो नाउ इफ इट इज पेड इट मींस देयर इज डिस्चार्ज ऑफ इंस्ट्रूमेंट. चेक था, मिस्टर ड्रॉवर ने चेक इशू किया ड्रॉई के ये पेई के नाम पे और ये ऑनर हो गया, बैंक ने पे कर दिया, तो इट इज डिस्चार्ज्ड. ओके, नाउ डिस्चार्ज ऑफ वन पर्सन, वन और मोर ऑफ द पार्टीज फ्रॉम लायबिलिटीज देयर वाज. अभी हम देखने वाले हैं कि व्हाट आर द वेज वेयर parties may be discharged, parties may be discharged from the liability. तो by payment, आपने negotiable instrument create किया, right? अगर आप पे कर देते हो तो कोई बात नहीं, तो you discharge from that. If that instrument get cancelled, then also you get discharged, मतलब आपका उस पे rights complete extinguish हो गया. By release, you have released that instrument, okay? By allowing draw is more than 48 hours. अगर आपने ड्रॉई को 48 आवर्स से ज़्यादा टाइम का अलाउ किया तो भी वो डिस्चार्ज हो जाएगा, बिकॉज देर इज सम लिमिटेशन ऑफ टाइम पीरियड. इफ देर इज डिलेज इन प्रेजेंटमेंट फॉर पेमेंट, जैसे चेक का केस है, चेक के केस में अगर आप एक समय के बाद प्रेजेंट करते हो चेक बियॉन्ड द वैलिडिटी पीरियड, देन इट विल नॉट बी ऑनर्ड, राइट? Party is not consenting to qualified or limited exempt. Sometimes it happens the party to whom bill is endorsed is not qualified for that. तो in that case अगर वो पार्टी बिल को प्रेजेंट करता है बैंक में या जो भी, तो in that case the person who has draw that instrument is not liable for anything. He is extinguished from his liability. And if there is any material alteration, if there is any changes in the instrument regarding date, regarding sum of money, regarding time to make the payment, regarding place of payment, and regarding rate of interest, then due to that alteration, due to that modification in that instrument, the person who has drawn the bill is away from the liability. फिर वो liable नहीं रहेगा. And by operation of law, if law interferes in some of the cases, in that case also, अगर लॉ की वजह से या कुछ ऐसे लॉ या कुछ कोर्ट ने ऑर्डर दिया है, तो कोर्ट के ऑर्डर की वजह से भी ऐसा हो सकता है कि वन और मोर ऑफ द पार्टीज आर डिस्चार्ज फ्रॉम देयर लाइबिलिटीज.